Hi kids, welcome to my special for the year ending 2014. I'm going to discuss a number of very crucial items, not the least of which are the winners of the contest that we've had going most of this year, based on the questions that you send me in. We'll do the same for next year, so keep sending the questions in. But we'll get to that later on in this podcast. I think it's important with 2015 rapidly approaching, that we not do what I would call fundamental review, but really talk about what the real crux of the basis of QLA methodology is, and remembering that I started QLA, which I didn't call it QLA at the time, for a very simple reason. I had no money. So the whole basis and all the steps are based on how does a guy who wants to be moral, honest, ethical, etc., build substantial wealth to fulfill his dream. And when I look back, and I formulated this in 1993-ish with a couple of good friends of mine, we went back and we looked in retrospect, what I had done and how I had done it, and how the steps I actually took. And obviously, or not maybe obvious to you, your first 100 million is based on that. It tells you how I started and how I came up with various concepts like the dream team, and success fees, which we use even today. But I came up with what I called the 5 Credos. And these were the 5 Credos for success. Now, what do I mean by those 5 Credos? And we're going to go through each one individually. And we're going to give some examples of it. But most great organizations have a mission statement, they have a theme, they have a mantra, etc. And QLA's mantra is to get from A to B, from not necessarily poverty, but from no wealth to super wealth in the shortest period of time. And normally people think of that as a straight line, but it's not always a straight line, because man plans and God laughs. Now, so I went back and I developed and I put words to the thoughts I had at the time, and more importantly, I put words to the actual things that I did. And I developed the 5 Credos of success, which I've pretty much lived my life by. And in fact, my children, who are adults now, age 28, 31, and almost 32, they would tell you we've heard about what they call the 5 Credo crap since we were in our mommy's tummy. Which is true, because I've been talking about this stuff, even though I didn't call it 5 Credo, since the children before they were born. So 5 QLA Credos for success. Number 1, yesterday's dreams are today's realities. Okay, Dan, that kind of sounds like a cliche, but what do you mean? Well, the Castle Seminar, and the reason why the Castle Seminar is so damn important is it's the perfect metaphor for yesterday's dreams are today's realities. And I tell everybody that goes there, I tell everybody at the Castle, and that's why I believe it's so damn powerful, is that I dreamed of this as a goal in March, April 1983, and after reading the Robb Report, who had just come out. Robb Report is a magazine I recommend for all of you to get. And they had a section in the back where they had castles for sale, and I looked at castles on islands. So my goal was to have a castle on an island. And 17 months later, that goal came to fruition, and I moved into Guthrie Castle in end of August 1984. Excuse me. Now, so yesterday's dreams, the dreams that you have here, and you do affirmations about, etc., that I've talked through all these podcasts on, can become today's realities. And another way of saying it, today's dreams can be tomorrow's realities. But it's extremely powerful. It's extremely important to understand your dreams can come true. I've done some other pretty spectacular things, and that's why I think that I was coined here recently in the last year or so, the financial wizard or financial magician. But the bottom line is, I believed in it, and that's all I ate, slept, I drank it, whatever, and that's all I thought about. And I started looking at castles, etc. As those of you that have gone to the seminar and that have read the book and read my free content on my site, I started visiting castles before I could afford one. I was looking at castles in Thanksgiving in 1983. But yesterday's dreams are today's realities. Number 2, seeing dreams ahead. Well, Dan, what do you mean by that? That sounds kind of funky. Well, when I talk about goal setting, when I talk about affirmations, I talk about you need to see yourself where you want to be. I saw myself at Guthrie Castle in how I look today, not how I look from 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. Because your subconscious, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you see yourself there when you've got gray hair, well, I've got gray hair now, but when I made this goal, I didn't have but a few gray hairs in my beard. Your subconscious tells yourself that you have plenty of time to do it. But so you see your dreams ahead in time now. You need to see yourself in that Ferrari. You need to see yourself in that big $5 million house. You need to see yourself practicing medicine successfully on Madison Avenue. And here you might only be a junior in college, undergraduate school, and you haven't gone to medical school. You need to see yourself dreams ahead. Number 3, simulation. Practice within when you're without. Okay, now what the hell does that mean, Dan? Practice within when you're without. Now, I've already alluded to it a couple times. I said I went to visit castles before I could afford one. You've heard me say that I used to go to the Rolls Royce dealers and sit and smell the leather and touch the mahogany on the dashboard. My wife and I, back in the early 70s, used to go to $1 million houses to see what it was like and what they'd, so it became self-fulfilling, and it became deja vu when we actually moved into such a house. I tell the story that people used to say, when are your parents going to show up? Because at that time I looked young. I know it's hard for you guys to believe that I looked young at one time, but I used to look young, and my wife didn't even look younger. We were simulating success. Like I ask other success coaches, personal development coaches, high performance coaches, when was the last time you practiced being successful? When? Most can only answer the question, well, not recently. Well, I'm not interested in the other coaches. I'm only interested in you guys, because I want to pull as many of you across the goal line as I can to fulfill your dreams. So when was the last time you practiced being successful? Before you were successful. Now, I practice for every podcast. I practice for every appearance I make. I practice for an hour. For every hour I spend in this castle seminar, I practice at least an hour before. I consider myself a consummate professional. Okay? If I'm still practicing, and I'm practicing so I can continue to be successful, and what should you be doing? Have any of you even practiced being successful? I mean, I tell you to buy clothes so perception is reality. So you look more successful than you are. I tell you to join clubs. I'm still a proud member of the Jonathan Club in Los Angeles, which is one of the leading, used to be men's club, but now it's one of the leading membership clubs in the United States, arguably the world. I've been a member since 1981. You need to practice. You know, we used to take our children when they were young adolescents, out to fancy restaurants for lunch after church on Sunday, so they could learn how to use the silverware from the outside in and from the top down. They knew which glass to use, etc. They knew where to put their napkin, and they were practicing. And unfortunately, I also used to make them get dressed up for dinner, which to this day they don't like putting tuxedos on because of the bad vibrations that they got from when they were little because they were forced to do it. But practice, within when you're without. Number 4, you need to act as if there are no limits to your abilities. And this is perhaps the second most crucial. How are you going to do that, Dan? Or how did? But I'm going to tell you how I did it. And modeling is one of the great forms or methods to become successful. You model somebody that's already done it successfully. I always told people it was going to get done. I always told people I trapped myself, so to speak, into performing. So there was no wiggle room to get out. Even if I wasn't sure that I could get it done, I always told people that I could get it done. And 99 times out of 100, I got it done. I am highly surprised when I don't do something successfully. I'm highly surprised. I'm mystified, actually, when I don't do something successfully. Because I am so used to success now, after 40 years. I'm, as they would say in Britain, I'm gobsmacked when something doesn't work out and doesn't go my way. And it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you continue to tell your teams, we can do it, we can do it, we will do it, it's going to come to fruition, guess what? They'll take your leadership and they'll get it done. One of the famous lines that I gave many years ago while being interviewed by the Financial Times was, Mr. Peña, 10,000 U.S. energy companies have gone out of business. This is when oil went from $40 a barrel to down to $8 or $6 a barrel, depending on what index you used. And yet your company has grown so many hundreds or thousands of percent. How is that possible? And I told her with a straight face, the board and I took the decision, and that's how you say it in Britain, we took the decision not to participate in the energy recession or depression, depending on from what your perspective was. We decided not to participate in it. What the fuck? Everybody else decided to participate in it, I should say. Okay. We act as if we had no limits to our abilities. I mean, earlier this year, I bungee jumped at age 68. Hadn't had my 69th birthday in New Zealand when, I've got an artificial hip, I've got a titanium shoulder, I've got all kinds of things that have been busted and broken on me from sporting accidents. But I decided to do it because I hadn't done anything risk-taking, so to speak, in a while. So I decided to act as if I had no limits, no physical limits to my abilities. Now, I have very, very few mental limits to my abilities because I consider myself quite bright. But physically, at age almost 70 or at age almost 69 when I did that, I got plenty of things that there should be limits to my abilities. I've told you the story, I believe, on podcasts. It was a very, very windy day, and I didn't go there to New Zealand to bungee jump. And all the young kids were saying, hey, dude, when the fucking wind gonna stop? When are we gonna do this shit, dude? And while they were all fucking around with their finger up their asses, I jumped. Now, as far as I know, that day I was the only guy to jump. Because one of the things that when you have and you act as if you have no limits to your abilities, you always can take action, and you take action now. And it gets back to what I say all the time, just fucking do it. Now, the fifth and final credo is enthusiasm. It's the Greek God from within. If you don't act enthusiastic, if you don't sound fucking enthusiastic, you can't lead other people to be enthusiastic, and enthusiasm grows. Enthusiasm is infectious. And if you can be enthusiastic, or I should say, you have to be enthusiastic. QLA methodology will not work being middle of the road. QLA methodology only works if you're fucking enthusiastic. Now, if you look back at the 5 credos then, 1, yesterday's dreams are today's realities. 2, seeing dreams ahead. 3, simulation, meaning practice within when you're without. 4, act as if there's no limits to your abilities. And 5, enthusiasm, which means, it's the word that means Greek God from within. And I emphasize the God part, not so much the Greek part. But you think about all the high-performance people that you know, you've read about, etc., and you think about how they act and what their actions are. You can go back and you can pinpoint almost all 5 of those 5 credos. But the last credo, enthusiasm, they all have enthusiasm in different ways. Bill Gates has enthusiasm in one way. Mr. Zuckerberg has enthusiasm in another way. Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft, is more at my end of the continuum vis-a-vis enthusiasm. He jumps around, he swears a lot, and he's a very charismatic guy. That's my end of the continuum. But there's different kinds of enthusiasm. There's the General Patton kind of enthusiasm, like I consider I'm at that end of the continuum. And there's the statesman, Henry Kissinger kind of enthusiasm, which is more toned down and leveled out. So I hope I've made this clear now for the 5 credos of success. Now, I'm often asked, what is the 1 or 2 or 3 things that differentiates you, Dan, from other people that aren't high performance? Or more importantly and more specifically, you asked me, how are my mentees that have been the most successful differentiated from the mentees that perhaps aren't as successful? Well, you can go back to no limits to your abilities and enthusiasm for the 5 credos. And if you just want to go back to 1, enthusiasm. They have more enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is infectious. When people come to the Castle Seminar, after the first and second day, they're infected with a dose of Dan. And that's why we have so many people come back for a second, third, fourth, and we've even had people come back 6, 7, 8 times. And we've got one a very successful mentee who's come back, I think, 11 or 12 times. And they come back to have another dose of Dan. They come back to have another dose of Dan because my enthusiasm is infectious. And the reason why we get so much done in the 12 months subsequent to the Castle Seminar, for those that attend the Castle Seminar and partake in the year-long mentor program that I do for free, as you know, in addition to the actual week-long seminar, is because I'm pumping them up. I'm also chastising them every week on the weekly reports, and I'm also chastising them and pumping them up on our monthly conference calls. It's a great experience for me to look at all their faces on the conference call and to see how everyone reacts to somebody's success. And we don't just talk about successes, because you're able to talk about it, interface with your batchmates or your classmates, and talk about whatever you want. And so when somebody says they fucked up, or they made a mistake, or they have a big, we got a big 4 accounting firm on success fees, or we got this high-profile person to be the CFO or their chairman. I mean, I get off on seeing the faces on these guys. And more importantly, for the individuals that are participating in the year-long program, they see that other people can do it. It's pretty fucking monumental. And the manifestation of Joe Dokes and Sally Doofus seeing that Ed and Bill can do it is, well, shit. I was smarter than them in the seminar. I asked better questions. I reacted better to Dan. I was better at role-playing. How come I haven't fucking done it yet? And they have. So it becomes very much a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you can tell which, normally, the kids that are the most enthusiastic are the kids that prevail first. Hi, kids, again. As part of this year-end special, I am announcing, I'm pleased and I take great pleasure in announcing the winners of our free Guthrie Castle Seminar Contest. We announced it a number of months ago. We've had a lot of participation, and we're thankful for that. And I want to, first of all, thank everybody that has participated. Of course, not everybody can be a winner. But I'm going to read the questions that were the finalists. We had initially said that there was going to be one winner, overall winner, that gets to come to the castle seminar on their own. They have to get to the castle, and then the castle expense is on us. And that's still the case. We had said that there was going to be 4 runners-up. We've slightly changed that, and there's going to be 6 runners-up. Like I said, man plans, God laughs, because there were 6 outstanding runner-up questions. Now, all these questions have been answered in previous podcasts, and I know some of you have emailed and said, "Is this one of the ones?" or you've used it as a basis for questions that you've put forward. Okay, let's get started by reading the first of the finalists, first of the 7. If 20 to 60% IRR, that's internal rate of return, is considered very good by private equity, how do entrepreneurs manage to parlay small businesses into multi-million and billion-dollar enterprises in 5 to 8 years? What do they do differently than the financiers of Wall Street? And whatever they do differently, why don't the Wall Streeters do the same? Great question, already been answered, but it gives food for thought. But one of the keys to answering that question is that when you talk about 20 to 60% IRR, which 60% is pretty high, you got to know that there are many companies, myself included. I had a return of 55 million% on $820, turning it into about 450 million. So, I mean, there are deals that really, knock it out of the park. And so, but the average IRRs are a blend. And in most private equity firms manage on a third, a third, and a third. A third will fail. A third will get just average returns, and a third will get returns in the hundreds of percent. And when you blend that all together, it's a 20 to 60% IRR. Question number 2. Dan, you clearly are about transforming the world through the lives of people you help, and you teach some pretty amazing things. So my question is about what your wider legacy would be beyond those of those you have directly helped. And it is this. If you were to wave the magic Peña wand and could have 5 of your most powerful ideas, concepts, or strategies taught in our school systems to inspire and empower more of our kids to have some sort of impact on the world that you have, what would those 5 be? It's not simple. It sounds simple because I'm about to roll it off my lips, but I would have them have it mandatory that they have to teach passion. They have to teach commitment, moral commitment. They have to teach laser beam focus. They have to teach enthusiasm. And they have to teach that not to be dissuaded by failure. Failures are good. Failures are just a step on the way to being a super successful, high-performance person. Those are the 5. And I've also answered this in a little more elaborate form on a previous podcast. But it's a great question. But again, I don't want to be given too much credit, esoteric credit, but I fully expect that QLA will live on beyond me, and that's why in recent years, I've given away my product. I tell people to go to Torrent, and I believe we even posted stuff on Torrent. Anyway, if and when I go, I plan on not leaving this planet for anytime soon. Those are the 5 most powerful. But there's a lot of powerful, but those are that's the essence. I like this question when I heard it. It came from one of our phone-ins. And I believe the guy's Irish. He has an Irish accent. And it's been answered. Are you a madman acting enlightened, or are you an enlightened man acting mad? I believe that I'm a madman acting enlightened, although I've been accused of being an enlightened man acting mad. But if acting mad means dispelling many of the myths that exist, conventional wisdom and common consensus, etc., then I'm certainly mad, and I've been called a lot worse. Number 4, doesn't the philosophy, the more you investigate, the less you have to invest, contradict with the philosophy of insanity, of instantly deciding on a deal whether it is hot or not? If one instantly evaluates a deal to be hot, shouldn't you go forward with it irrespective of your investigation reveals? Great question, but no, the answer is no, because a deal's hot or not is what gets you to the first level of investigation. It doesn't give you tacit approval to just go and do the deal. So it's hot or not. You look at 10 deals. These 3 look hot. Fine, I'll investigate them. Great question, though. Let's see. Is this number 5? Today is your last day on Earth. You're leaving a manual for humanity about what to do get where you are today without incurring all the nightmares that took place. What are the 3 things you would include? It's I tell you, number 1, just fucking do it. That's but people don't like hearing that, so they ask me for 3, and some people ask me. The previous question is the 5 things that I want to teach humanity. Okay, so I'd say just fucking do it. And as Clausewitz said, who is a famous, I think, Prussian general, the focus on the few, not the many, and getting back to, and part of that is to be ferociously laser beam focused. Those are the 3, and I've answered them on a previous podcast. And the last question, or the penultimate question, I should say, why don't these cunts ever ask questions? Which I think is a great question. And I've also alluded to this on podcasts. I've also alluded to this on emails back in, not emails, excuse me, newsletters back in, I believe, September, which seems a long way away now. And they don't ask because they've already given up. They're not really serious about winning or changing their lives. They lack self-esteem or self-confidence because somebody's going to read their question and they think that they can't generate an intelligent question. Well, believe me, we've had plenty of questions that weren't so intelligent, and we still answered a lot of them. And there's been a lot of repetition, questions that were asked, same question, but just using different words we didn't answer. But we've had, hundreds of questions by this time that we've answered. Maybe even 1,000. I haven't kept track. But why don't these cunts ever ask you questions? It gets back to their own passion. It gets back to their own commitment or the lack thereof. It gets back to them as individuals. They're not serious. I've said this, personal development in the 70s, 80s, and 90s was vogue. It's still vogue. There's still a lot of guys making a living off of selling you seats in seminars, putting your butts there, and their product. But it's a good question, and it's one of the finalists. And last but not least, what is the best advice you received that you did not use at first. And I just mentioned it a couple of questions ago. And it's Mr. Peña, as Mr. Gratos used to tell me, focus on the few, not the many. And I give the example, he used to tell me, people tell you when you start to make wealth or start to create cash flow that you need to diversify to spread your risk. He said, and he gave me a couple examples. Here we're sitting in the Olympic Tower, and this was back in the 1980-ish, and the building is only 40% full. We're 60% empty. We're right on Fifth Avenue. Hell, if we can't rent space on Fifth Avenue, where can we rent it? But we built this building because we wanted to diversify. We started Greek Airlines, and we ultimately had to give it back to the Greek government because we didn't know how to run an airline. And we couldn't find the appropriate people to run it for us. And he gave me 4 or 5 other examples. And he says, but what we do well is we own, at that time, about 107 ships, if I remember correctly, a Panamanian flag. And we know how to run ships. All the ships, to the best of my knowledge, were debt-free. And we know how to do that. And every time now there's various ancillary or complementary or supplementary businesses to shipping, but whenever we get away from shipping, we step on our own deck. And focus on the few and not the many. And we all are involved in too many things. Whenever I go into a business and when people come to the seminar and I see all the activities they're involved in, I know what at least one of their underlying problems is. They're trying to do too much. You know, there was a study given many years ago, and in the military, which of course I'm military trained, and that's part of the reason I believe I'm successful, is because of that military training, is they say one average person can deal with 2 or 3 things at once, 2 or 3 projects. And I'd say 90% of the people watching this year-end special are involved in 5 to 10 things, sometimes 15 to 20 things, and you wonder why you're not more successful. But the best advice you ever received that you did not find useful at first is to focus on the few, not the many. And Clausewitz, a famous Prussian general, said that. And I might add, at least when I was still going through military training, some 45 plus years ago, his theories were still being used at infantry school where I went. I'm a proud graduate. It's a great thing. Now, we've got 7 finalists, and we're going to give 6 second places. The 6 second places are the first 6 that I mentioned. And they're all going to be able to have lunch with me and spend an afternoon with me asking me questions, 2 or 3 hours, whatever it takes, near where they live. And you all see my schedule on my website, danpeña.com. Go there and make contact with Thelma, one of my assistants, who handles my scheduling. And I'll be more than happy to take the time. Lunch is on me. You have to get to the lunch. I travel a lot, so this shouldn't be too difficult for the next year. Now, our grand winner is number 7. What is the best advice you ever received that you did not find useful at first? He or she, I believe it's a he, will get a free council seminar in 2015, hopefully early in 2015. The only requirement is he get to the castle. And everything else is on me, and hopefully he can schedule it for himself early in the year. I enjoyed this contest. I enjoyed all the people that have participated, and I hope and pray that now that we've given out 7 awards, one of which is the Castle Seminar, that we elicit more response from you guys. use the toll-free number. Send the questions in the various methods that we have on my site, the $50 Billion Man, etc. And I look forward to doing this again. If we get, I'm hoping that we get such grandiose response that I can give out more than one Castle seminar this coming year. I'm looking forward to it, and if the response is there, I'd like to give one a quarter, but only if the response is there. For me to do that, I need a lot more questions than we had in the past. And I would think, as I put in my newsletter, that since money seems to be an issue for many of you that can't even make the PPP, Peña payment plan, that the opportunity for you as individuals to come to the council for free would be enough of an incentive. If you're serious about your success, if you're serious about fulfilling your dreams. If you're not, then I understand. Most people that buy books, go to seminars, aren't serious. They're filling up void time. But for those of you that are serious, you've got an opportunity. And these 7 winners are going to have their lives changed. And if you don't think having lunch with me and spending an afternoon with me isn't going to change your life, you're sadly mistaken. I have a 100% success rate at the seminar, and I have a almost that good success rate just from people meeting me for a couple hours and spending a couple hours. I look forward to seeing as many of you that are QLA graduates as I can at my 70th birthday, which is coming up August 10th, 2015. We're going to have some festivities before and after, not the least of which is a golf tournament. We should have some luminaries there, which it's too soon for me to tell you who those luminaries are. It's going to be, as they say in Texas, it's going to be a shit kicker. And I'm looking forward to it, and it's black tie, sit-down dinner, and it's my way of thanking the QLA devotees and mentees I've had over the last 20 years. I expect to see some people that I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I expect that this person that is just won the Castle Seminar will be in attendance. I'm looking forward to it. As you well know, I'm committed to pulling as many of you over the goal line in the years I have left to coach and mentor as I possibly can. Happy New Year, happy holidays, happy New Year, and God bless and peace.